So we're here today with Lorne Rubenstein, who joined us on a great tour of Ireland a few weeks ago, and we wanted to just reminisce a little bit about the trip. So, Lorne, thanks so much for joining me.
Man, I'll tell you what, it was enjoyable being there, and I know it's going to be enjoyable talking about it. It seems like that's all I've done the last few weeks is tell people about this trip.
It was a pretty great one. We obviously had a great group and went to an awesome part of Ireland. So we'll touch on all that as we chat here. But I know you've been over there a number of times before. This was a trip that we did through our partners at Tourism Ireland and our partners over in Ireland, where we gave away a few trips to some contest winners. And so it really worked out well. The people that won the trip, and we'll go over that a little bit later, but were fantastic to hang out with. But it was a part of Ireland as well that a lot of people don't know as much about because the courses maybe don't have the same names as some of the top ones like Royal County Down and Portrush. But they're incredible golf courses that offer so much fun and enjoyment. And so I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were. I know you played most of them before, but not all of them. So tell me a little bit about what your experience was on the golf courses.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something special about getting away to places that maybe people don't know all that well because they're remote, or because they just haven't heard them as well. As you say, they're not the Ballybunions and Royal County Downs and Port Rushes and so on. But when you go to them, you find that the people welcome you so much. Not that they don't at the other courses, but it's almost as if they're excited to have you there because they know you probably made a bit of a special effort to get there because they're remote and because they're not at the top, let's say, of people's bucket list, although I think they should be and they will be. So I always find that, I enjoy going to those golf courses as much or even more than the famous ones. It's amazing. You meet so many local people. It's the courses that are just part of their lives. They look at us, we're willing to travel thousands of miles to get there. To them, it's their backyard golf course, like hockey rinks are for us in Canada, let's say. And this is just where they play golf. Wow, you're coming to our place? Let's go out and play. Let's have a beer later. So for me, in all of the traveling that I've done over the years, I really enjoy going to these lesser known courses. And after I played them, I just say, wow, they should be a lot better known because they're so good and so charming and thrilling, really, to play each in slightly different ways.
Absolutely, and I know you wrote a couple articles for Score Golf that we'll also provide the links to in our newsletter to everybody. But one of them was prior to the trip, and one of them was following the trip, and they were incredible articles, especially the one after the trip. It was great to reminisce, and I know that even beyond that article, you also sent out a tweet sort of ranking the golf courses that we played. We played six golf courses. We played in order: Castle Rock, Port Salon, Ballyliffin, Donegal, Carn, and Enniscrone. And in your tweet, you ranked them all 1A. So explain to us a little bit about that.
Well, I had a little fun with that because everybody is into ranking courses, and I've been on all of these panels over the years, Score and Golf Magazine, and Golf Digest, and Golf Monthly in the UK. And I'm not necessarily the biggest proponent of ranking golf courses. It's like ranking music or who you think your favorite actor is. There's so many good ones. So in this case, I wanted to have a little fun. I said, you know what? I can't really rate one better than the other. There are similarities between them, but there are also differences between them. And there's not a one that I would say, you know what, I would put that third as opposed to first, or I'd put it first as opposed to third. If I could play them all in one day, if that were possible, I'd play them all in one day. People always ask you, what would be the one course you'd play? Well, I can't answer that question for this trip we had, TJ. I'd have to say, well, they're all my favorite golf courses, if that makes any sense. And I meant that sincerely, really. They were all ranked number one or 1A, as I referred to them in the article. I'd go back, I think I wrote tomorrow to any of them without even blinking an eye. Put me on any one of them and I'd be happy to be there.
Absolutely. And so without getting into too much detail, but just quickly give us your just quick thoughts on each of the courses individually.
Well, I'll go in order if I can remember. Castle Rock, of course, that was the first course we played. And that's one I hadn't played before. And it was exciting to get there, especially after the long flight overnight and the bus ride we had with our terrific bus driver, Darmot, and getting to know the gang, the group that we had, and getting to Castle Rock. We were all a little bit tired, of course. We tried to get a few winks in on the bus, but everybody was so thrilled to be there and excited to get off on the right foot on this trip that by the time we got there, it was, I went out there. I had my 7 clubs. I always travel with just a half a set. And I went out there and immediately the links course, the links spread itself out in front of you with those big sand hills and dunes. Hadn't played there before, as I say, so I didn't know what to expect. But immediately I was taken with Castle Rock, and it just confirmed my point of view that every one of these golf courses was going to be exciting, and that proved out. So that was a perfect place to start, Castle Rock. I think the next place we played was Port Salon, or Port Salon, I think it's pronounced. There's one I hadn't played before at all, and really, maybe because I hadn't played there before, it was the surprise of the trip for me, because I asked myself, why haven't I heard about this? And I'm pretty well read in golf. It's what I've been doing my whole life, writing about golf courses and golf people, but I hadn't really heard of Port Salon. I got there, I found out it was one of 8 or 9 founding clubs of the Irish Golf Union way back in 1891. Had a great caddy, a fellow who had just retired from 40 years in the police force, Billy Walsh. He told us all sorts of stories. It's right on the water, as a links course is, but this was really, I think the second or third hole played right across a bend in the water, kind of like the first hole at Machrihanish. And there were holes that were tucked away in the dunes. There were holes that were up in the hills. And I just found it a revelation. There was, I think, 3 double greens, 2 anyway, maybe 3. And I thought to myself, wow, isn't this amazing? This again makes the point. You don't have to know about every golf course to have surprises. And I would go back there, as I say, tomorrow, Port Salon. Of course, I never even knew before. And in the few weeks we've been home, I've recommended it to all kinds of people. People are always asking me, take a look at my itinerary. What are you thinking about this? And I say, you know what? You want some surprises, go to play Port Salon, Castle Rock, the first 2 courses we started with, and might not be at the top of everybody's list, but I see no reason why they shouldn't be. Then we went to Ballyliffin, where I had played before, Pat Ruddy's golf courses. I think that Nick Faldo once wanted to do a golf course there, but it just didn't happen. He may have done some work on 9 holes on one of the courses, but Ballyliffin, the 2 courses there are just awesome golf courses, links. I mean, they are really what I would call majestic golf courses, each of them. We played the course called Glashady, which is called that because of the Glashady rock out in the water, out in the ocean, and you can see it from pretty much all points of the golf course. And this is a how would you say, it's kind of on a bigger scale. It's more like a Ballybunion type golf course, with big greens, wide fairways. Of course, that's the essence of links golf, that it gives you options. And we just went around there, and I remembered it from when I played it back in 2015, but it was as if it was new. And that's what I find with links golf courses. You may have played them before, but they feel new because the wind blows or it doesn't blow. It's cold or it's not cold, or it's sunny or it's not sunny. You don't know what to expect, and you have to choose your shots carefully and judiciously. And I really enjoy hitting the ball along the ground. And Ballyliffin, because of its big greens, really gives you the option, even more than other links courses, to play your angles and move the ball around, which I really enjoy doing and trying to be creative. So that was a terrific golf course to get back to, for sure. Our next one was Donegal, which I had played there again in 2015. That was 7 years ago. I remember a fair bit of it as I went along. It's a little bit more down in the ground, a little bit more of a lay of the land course. But every hole is a revelation, really. You come up to the hole, and it's sort of a more straightforward course in some ways than Ballyliffin, but a really solid links course, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And the whole area around there is just magnificent. But that was the case with all of Northwest Ireland that we were in. I mean, the landscape, and I'm sure we'll get into that, is really, really awesome and thrilling. We went from there to Cairn, which I'd heard about. I'd read about Cairn for many years, and read John Garrity's book, Ancestral Links, Tom Coyne's look at Cairn, which he loved in his book, of course, called Ireland. So there's one I'd really anticipated getting to that I hadn't played before. I'd heard that it's wild and raw and really even strange in some ways. And it was. I mean, it had so many unusual golf holes with holes bending around awesome dunes, gigantic dunes, which I could barely hit a ball over. And I'm glad I didn't have to walk over some of those dunes. And fairways just thread between these massive dunes. It's a really unusual golf course, Karn. And I guess to me, it defines what you would call, and I mean this in a complimentary way, eccentricity in golf course architecture. And it's a relatively new course designed by the Irish designer Eddie Hackett, and it's just really was a. I loved being there, and I'd love to go back there again. I think one of the people on our trip described it as like a Disneyland of golf, and it really was. Every hole, if you hadn't played it before, and I hadn't, whoa, what is this? How do I get to the green? Is there a green down there? And it was really something to play. It was like, finding some music for the first time that you never thought that you would like, and yet you loved being there. And that's the way it was at Cairn for me. And I look forward to getting back there, I hope, one day. Then the final course, Enniscrone, I had played before. And that, I might say, is the course I'd want to play every day, just because it is such a solid golf course. I mean, the first hole plays down on the flats, a dogleg right, but it moves slightly up into the dunes, and you know that you're going to be playing in the dunes quite a bit. You do for a few holes, then you come back, I think, to 7, 8, 9, or maybe it's 8, 9, and 10, which are flatter, more conventional holes, but yet with the genius of Irish golf design and designers, you still have to hit a lot of different shots into the greens. Then you go back up into the dunes, and now you're into a whole bunch of wild, rambling, roaming golf holes. And Enniscrone just seemed to me a course that if I were living in Ireland and living near there, that would be the one that I would want to belong to. I just loved Enniscrone. I really did.
So yeah, that was a great summary of all the golf courses we played, Lorne, and we also got some weather, didn't we? And Cairn was a spectacularly sunny day, and then the next day at Enniscrone we got some pretty severe wind and rain, and it kind of brought all the elements into play during our trip. But you touched a little bit on this part of Ireland being where people are so proud and proud to show the part of the country, and you mentioned the landscape as well. So touch a little bit on the outside of golf experience, like off the golf course, that we got to enjoy a little bit, both up in Ballyliffin and then also at Mount Falcon.
Well, the wonderful thing about golf on these links courses and up there in that part of Ireland and really right through Ireland is that there are always surprises. You can start right with the golf holes, of course, and the golf courses. We've touched on that. But what I mean by surprises are the people that you meet. At the Ballyliffin Town House Hotel that we stayed at the bar there, of course, you got to hang out at the bar and drink a little Guinness. I met a couple of Irish fellows there who have been coming up to Ballyliffin for some 30 or 40 years. They live in Dublin. They drive up there. There are members there, and they just come up on their own to play golf a few times every year. And they just love it so much. It's a 4-hour drive from Dublin, but that doesn't stop them. They come up, and you chat about golf is really, I've called it an Esperanto of sport, a universal language, and that's what I find. Found on this trip, and I know I find that on every trip I go overseas, really. So that's just one of the surprises, people that you meet. Also at Ballyliffin, after one of the rounds, that was a beautiful day. I learned that Pat Ruddy, I think, or maybe it was not Pat Ruddy, but anyway, there was a 9-hole par 3 course there behind Ballyliffin itself, the first course. And I learned that, and I went out by myself just with 2 or 3 clubs, played a quick 9 holes on the par 3 in 45 minutes. And then I came in and meaning to meet the gang in the bar for a drink. And I saw a sign saying that there was a little area there for massage inside the clubhouse. I said, massage, man, I need that after walking all of this golf for a few days. I went in, it was near closing time, but the young woman there who ran the massage studio said she could take me in for a half an hour. So I had a wonderful massage there for half an hour at a very, very reasonable cost. She couldn't have been, nicer, more efficient. And I felt totally relaxed now after the golf. As a friend of mine once said about playing golf at some of his favorite golf courses, he said, I'm so relaxed, I need a pill to tighten up. And that's how I felt. I felt like after the 27 holes of golf, 18 on Ballyliffin on the main course, 9 on the par 3, and then having the massage, it was just a perfect day, really. And that's what I find. You have so many perfect days over there if you're open to it, if you're open to meeting new people, if you're open to having new experiences, if you're open to going out and playing with 2 or 3 or 4 clubs, or playing foursomes golf, alternate shots. There's so many different ways to do it, and those are just some of the things that are always welcome on a golf trip like this. The people you meet, the holes that you didn't expect to see, the drinks you have. I found out about new drinks that I'd never ever had before, and we can talk about that. And I mean, those are the things that the golf is a big part of it. It's the main reason you're going, but there's so much more to a golf vacation, to a vacation over in this part of Ireland.
Yeah, and one of the great things on this trip is we were all on a coach, and we had a great driver you mentioned before, Dermot, who treated us so well, and really was a great host for us. So and there was a fair bit of driving, because going up to that part of the country, it's 3 hours away from Dublin, so you're on the bus a little bit. But having a coach really does make that time go by a little quicker, doesn't it? Because you're there on the bus, and you can maybe play some cards at the table, or you can have a drink or two, reminisce about the round you just played. It just makes the time go by quicker, and it's a really comfortable way to get around.
It really is the only way to go if you can. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities, of course, and to take tour buses. And Dermot was fantastic, really. I mean, I don't even think he used a GPS at all. He knew his way around that country, and he got us there in good time. And some of the trips were a little long, 3-4 hours, but you didn't even notice. I was actually quite surprised a few times. What, we're there already? And that just shows you the camaraderie that had developed between our group. I mean, you were the only one that I knew before, and then there were 10 others, and I feel like we all became friends very, very quickly within a couple of days. I'm still in touch with a bunch of them, and taking the bus is you could rest if you wanted to, listen to some music if you wanted to on your phone. He had some music going sometimes. Everybody was kidding around. The cooler was stocked with beer, soft drinks, or snacks, and a very, very comfortable way to go. And a big kind of sprawling bus. It was really I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've driven over there quite a bit, but when you're going with a larger group, or even just the foursome, I think it really is the way to go. It really makes the trip that much more comfortable, and allows you to kibitz that much more, because you don't have to pay attention to the road. After all, you're driving in a little different, on the other side of the road. And while you get used to that fairly quickly, still you have to have your wits about you a lot. Let somebody else have their wits about you, and we can have our fun.
That's exactly it. It takes all the pressure off, for sure.
Takes
So
all the
I
pressure
wanted to,
off.
yeah, I wanted you to touch a little bit on the two hotels. Well, we stayed in three eventually, with the Portmarnock Hotel at the end, and we'll touch on that one as well. But in particular, Ballyliffin Townhouse and Mount Falcon Estates, two very different types of accommodation, but both great for golf groups.
Yeah, they are very, very different, experiences. The Townhouse Hotel is a smaller, you would call it almost a boutique hotel with a wonderful bar, of course, as they all have. I'd stayed there before, but it felt like I was coming there for the first time. Very, very welcoming, right, in the little village there of Ballyliffin, just, maybe a mile from the golf course, easy to get to, and very, very comfortable rooms. I had a very comfortable room. I think we had a meal there one night as well, which was very good. I mean, the Irish, their cuisine is really, really good. The drinks are really good, and that was very enjoyable staying there. It's nice to have a change up during a trip like this too, where you stay in different types of accommodation. And Ballyliffin Townhouse Hotel, as I say, a boutique hotel, a smaller hotel, and in the size of our group, 11 of us, you almost felt like you took over the hotel, like it was our home for a couple of days. And then Mount Falcon is, classy, classic, elegant estate. That's why it's called, I think, Mount Falcon Estate. It's on 60 acres or so, owned by a fellow named Alan Maloney, an Irishman who just loved it and took it over the property. And reminded me of a few sort of almost castle-like places I've stayed in overseas in Ireland and Scotland over the years. And it was what I would call, it was elegant for sure. And one thing I really liked, being a reader and a writer, there's a great room there with full of newspapers and books where I could sit down by myself sometimes, have a little break, just enjoy that, grab a drink from the bar and go in there. And I made sure I did that. And then, we had some pretty nice celebrations in the bar as well. And then there's the Portmarnock Links Hotel, the golf course right there, which is right beside the famous Portmarnock golf course where I had played before. And I think I just read that they're doing some work on the golf course, Portmarnock Links, which looked pretty good, but I think they're refurbishing it and doing it. So that was an ideal place to stay because the next day we were flying out of Dublin, and it was a very short drive to the airport. So it was a perfect way to end the trip, and it was a perfect evening to finish off the trip. I think we closed the bar, and they probably stayed open an hour and a half longer than they normally would just to accommodate us. Very friendly people.
Absolutely. And it was great all the way through the trip that, there were some people that kind of went out a little bit later, others that retired a little bit earlier. And sort of, we had different ways of enjoying sort of the nightlife in Ireland. But that last night, certainly there was great camaraderie and stories being told. And it was great reminiscing about the trip. But overall, a lot of times it's the people that make a trip, right? And that's what it was on this one as well. What a great group. As you said, most of us didn't know each other going in, and everybody just got along so well. And I was talking earlier to someone about the fact that one of our contest winners happened to be a professional photographer, which didn't hurt either because Derek took some unbelievable pictures of the trip as well. But an amazing group and camaraderie.
It was. It was a terrific variety of people. As I say, I didn't know anybody but you before I got on the trip, and it didn't take long to feel that we were pretty good friends, close friends. Obviously, by being on this trip, we're all kindred spirits. We've got a love of the game. We don't mind being with new people at all. We don't have to just go with old friends. We're open to experiences. So right from that, that you have a certain kind of kinship with the people that you're going to be with. But then it just all melded together very, very nicely. And you made sure we all played with each other at least once or twice, which was a great idea. And that helps. You're out on the golf course for 3-4 hours, and you really get to know people. And I'm very happy that I'm continuing to be in touch with some of these people, and we're inviting each other to wherever we live in Canada, play a little golf, have some more good times. So that was a big, big part of it. And you did a damn good job as a social director.
Well, I appreciate that, but it was easy with this group, I'll tell you, because it was just a great group of people, and with the destination, obviously, as we talked about, it's one of my favorites, and that part of Ireland, and you can't go wrong, right? You can't not enjoy it. So again, thanks so much for being an incredible host on the trip, and for doing this and reminiscing with us about the trip. Really, just bringing back memories of just a few weeks ago.
You're right. No, it was a wonderful trip, and thank you for inviting me on it. And for all of our group who will probably see this, hello again, and I look forward to seeing you soon if possible.
Fantastic. And I guess our next trip will be in May, where we're going back to Dornick to have you tell some stories to our guests who are joining us on that trip as well, and really reminiscing about your times there over the years.
Yeah, it'll have to be a 2-month trip for me to talk about all my experiences there.
Well, we'll enjoy that. That's in May, and we'll have more information for that on that for our clients as well. But again, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, TJ, thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.